recording this meeting. We will begin with roll call in alphabetical order. Bill Bontempi. Cheryl Caruana. Here. Sean Kennedy.
Here.
Lisa Murray. Here. Rich Redeker. Mike Terabasi.
Here.
And Michelle Boudreaux. Here. Can you please stand? Cheryl, lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are going to begin with our student representative.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be back. It's been a very long time. It's been super busy here at Minnesota, but I'm glad to be informing you again. I'm going to start a little bit further than I usually do because there's been a lot going on. At the beginning of March, HWRSD Club hosted a black balloon event. We were outside of HWRSD's classroom. Students were able to sign black balloons, hang them on the outside of the hallway in those remembrance of who passed from drug overdose. It was an amazing experience for many students to reflect on that topic that's very heavy. As well in March, the Drama Club hosted It's a Madhouse. It was one of their biggest productions of this year, and the house was pretty packed. So, also in March was the Massachusetts Association of Student Council's field trip. I was so grateful to be accepted onto this trip. It was amazing. It was a leadership conference, and I came back learning so much about student council. I met so many high school students and really reached out to a lot of high schools in all of Massachusetts, and we got to see some amazing things that those student councils do. Also was the semi-formal dance on the 22nd here at Minnesota. We sold about the same amount of that what we spent, so pretty much averaged out with money-wise. Our theme was Tangled, so we had it during it was a DJ and it was super fun. And we all danced our hearts out. Along from the last time I saw you, we had several chorus and band concerts, including Wilbraham Middle School and also from here at Shaw with Camerata and Honors Band. Active Minds returned from a field trip today, and they had a conference talking all about mental health and how important it is for students to be really mental health aware during this time of midterms and MCAS and just recovering from moving on to the rest of the year. And as the year comes to a close, it's very important to make sure that your mental health is very aware and self-reflective. Excuse me. Also looking forward to next Wednesday. The music department is going to New York City to see Wicked on Broadway, and I will be going. And it's going to be super fun. It's a wake-up call at 5 a.m. But we were so fortunate to have the Music Association contribute to our ticket prices and to leave the students only paying $25 for the trip. So, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
No, enjoy Wicked. I hear it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to go a little out of order on the agenda. I'm going to actually move to the superintendent's update.
Before you do that, were you here for something or?
Excuse me, we're moving on to the next.
Oh, okay, there you go. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I have a 4-part report tonight. Since this is the first meeting of the month, let me begin with the enrollment, which stands at 2,846, which is 4 more than last month. Next, the strategic plan implementation update. I wanted to let you know that we implemented the School Quality Measures Survey, which is our way of fulfilling the objective of beginning a process of assessing district climate on an annual basis. We received over 2,400 responses from students in grades K to 12, and that's incredibly right. Students in kindergarten were able to participate in the survey. There were versions that went all the way down to the youngest learners that had smiley faces or frowning faces that they could indicate for their response. We also received more than 250 responses from educators. Our partners at UMass are now working on analyzing the data. The key next steps are cleaning the results to remove potentially erroneous responses. For example, we had one student survey that was completed in 60 seconds, so that may not represent true, true indication of their perceptions. Then staff from the Massachusetts Consortium for Innovative Education Assessment will reach out to each school principal to share the results from the open response section of the educator survey. Then data will be uploaded on the school quality measures framework dashboard. Then the consortium will create a district overview PowerPoint that summarizes key strengths and areas for growth across all schools. The consortium director will then be available to visit with any district and/or school level meetings to review and analyze the data using protocols from their Appreciative Inquiry Guide. And in addition to all the above, we piloted questions related to school libraries for the first time. So this is an evolving measure, and thanks to our librarian who wanted to have some involvement in piloting some questions around library resources, we were able to run those for the first time with our staff and students. So since this is sort of a tryout, we won't be able to display the pilot results on the dashboard. The consortium is happy that we were able to contribute to the development of the process by piloting some questions about library resources. Now, moving on to the Equity Improvement Plan implementation, I want to let you know that as of today, we've completed the process of conducting focus groups with staff, families, and students to better understand what's happening in the district related to bullying, harassment, and discrimination. 2 high school focus groups were conducted on March 14th, and 3 focus groups were conducted at Wolverhampton Middle School earlier today. Vanetta Lightfoot, who is the LBPEC Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Belonging Coordinator, led this work along with support from Georgina Trebu. Their next steps will be to identify the major themes that came up in the focus group discussions and report them to the district DEI committee to inform the work it's doing to revise and update the district's bullying prevention plan. And now comes the best part. The Massachusetts affiliate of the Library of Congress Center for the Book sponsors an annual statewide competition inviting students in grades 4 through 12 to read a book of their choice, reflect on it, and write a personal letter to the author, explaining the impact this work had on them. This year, Wolverhampton Middle School had 8 semifinalists, all of whom submitted letters that were judged to be in the top 16% of entries in the state. Our semifinalists were Grace Valzone, Jackson Holsberg, Isabel Horn, Adrielle Sheridan, Sadie Dos Santos, Dan LaRue, Eva Gagliarducci, and Ian Stratton. And Ian's entry was not only in the top 16%, it was judged to be the second best in the state. I was moved by Ian's essay. As I wrote to him yesterday, in a few short paragraphs in his authentic voice, he addressed the fundamental human experiences of discrimination, want, family, hope, education, and ultimately our place in the universe. Ian, his teacher, and his family will be invited to participate in a recognition ceremony at the Massachusetts State House on Tuesday, May 21st. So now I'm going to step aside and invite Ian to close out my report by sharing his essay.
Hi, I'm Ian. So, sorry. My letter starts like this. Dear Victoria Jameson and Omar Mohammed, my name is Ian Stratton, and I read your book, When Stars Are Scattered. I truly enjoyed it and think Omar's journey is incredible. Your book taught me many important lessons about life, hope, and perseverance. I am writing to share my story and how this book became a part of it. I first read When Stars Are Scattered 2 years ago in 5th grade. I remember that it was a class book and everyone in my class was reading it. As we started reading the book, I thought, hey, I'm like Omar and Hassan. Like their brothers, I grew up without parents. When I was first born, I lived in China and was left wrapped in a blanket tucked away in a corner across the alleyway from the front door of the orphanage. For the first 7.5 years of my life, I grew up in the orphanage with many other children and did not have many of the things I needed, like enough food to fill my belly, clothing in my home, or any toys to play with. Life was challenging for me because everyone looked at me strangely and thought I could not do simple tasks because I was born without a left hand. Fortunately, when I was 7.5 years old, 4 American strangers, 2 adults and 2 children, came to China and adopted me and made me a part of their family. I moved to America, started a new life with my adopted family, and now have a beautiful story and life like you. I admit, when I started reading the book, I thought it would be sad and cheesy. However, it was not. It gave me so much awareness of life and how small I am compared to the universe. Your book also made me realize that I am not alone. Other people face similar life challenges. I also found that the greatest lesson I have learned in life was reflected in your book, to always have hope. When I lived in an orphanage, I thought, who is going to want to adopt me? I don't have a hand, and I'm getting too old to adopt. I felt as though I would be stuck there forever. But like you, I remained optimistic. Even as I got older and other children teased me, a small part of me always remained hopeful, and I would get adopted. Your similar ability to stay hopeful for over 15 years in the refugee camp impressed me and also helped me be proud of myself for my journey. Another important lesson that your book taught me was how crucial it is to be educated. Like you, I did not have the most normal education. When I came to America, I had to learn English fast without formal instruction just to understand what the teacher was saying. And I did not fit in because of the cultural differences, but I always tried hard. It dawned on me how important being educated is when I was reading about Miriam and not being able to go to Canada. Nemo got to because she was educated, but Miriam was left behind. Reading your book helped me better understand that education is key to success. I've always wanted to be successful, but I didn't realize right away how important education is to reaching that success. So like you, I focus on academic achievements. I listen, pay attention, do my work, and always try my best to learn the lesson and get the best grades I can. Life is hard, life is hopeful, life is a series of ups and downs. I've always had struggles in my life, and so does everyone else. I am just one of the 8 billion people. Every one of those people has struggled, but they also have something good in their lives, something that keeps them going. That something is hope. Your book shows that there is always hope. On behalf of everyone who, like me, has found meaning and valuable life lessons in your book, thank you. Sincerely, Ian.
That was absolutely amazing. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
We're all very proud of you.
Thank you.
And that's my report.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you for coming. Have a good day. You too.
Could I get a copy sent to me of that? John?
Yep, I will send them to all the members of the committee.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay, we will continue with old business, the removal of the nuisance tree discussion and possible vote.
Okay, so in your binders, you will find both the assessment of the tree and the potential risks associated with the tree, as well as estimates for both pruning and removal. I reached out to Nick to ask if this matter had been taken up by the select board. As you recall, he had a proposal to essentially cost share the expenses of either the removal or He said that they did not have a formal posted meeting, but they did express a sense of the select board that they were amenable to that. I asked them if they had a preference for either removal or pruning. He said they did not.
Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding either pruning or the removal of the tree?
I mean, I went through the report, it looks like a healthy tree, sugar maple. I don't really think there should be any consideration towards its removal. Especially when they, whatever problems there could be, can be mitigated by limbing the tree and putting in a support cable. I'm also confused as to why we're going to be paying for it from the school budget. I don't foresee myself being able to support that, even as a cost share, because it's on the town's land. If in the future they want us to put a line item budget in the school budget for tree limbing and stuff and taking care of bushes on town land, I mean, I'd be open to it, but we don't have that in the budget right now, so I'm not willing for any of that money to come away from, as it is, we're in danger of maybe not being able to buy all the Chromebooks that are needed for next year. So, anyway, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not a certified arborist, but trees grow, which means that you can go ahead and you can limb a tree, but you will get new shoots, you'll get new growth. That's the way trees work. If you're going to deal with the problem, I think we should deal with the problem and get rid of the tree. Otherwise, at some point down the road, we're going to be dealing with issues with this tree again.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you. As someone who used to be on finance, just the question is, in other departments, if the police department has a tree on their property that's affecting a neighbor or anything like that, it's town-owned property. Is it the department's responsibility, or is it the town's responsibility? Do you have any precedent? Do you know anything of this?
So you have to understand, when you're on FinCom, like on a given night, you may have your budgets from 2 or 3 major departments of the town, hundreds of line items, and they go through it all line by line. So I totally say that I may not remember something, but I don't remember any line items or budgets for tree removals or tree limbing other than the tree warden's budget, which was for them. Now I also remember the tree warden's budget always being kind of an issue. Like, there's a huge list of trees in town that need to be taken care of, and they cost a huge pile of money, and he gets given like a tiny bit of that every year. So there's never funding to take care of. It seems like there's always a budget shortfall in terms of taking care of all the trees that are on the list that could possibly be taken care of. So, like a lot of things in the world, I think the warden does a triaging and takes care of the worst cases first and stuff. So I kind of understand why there might be an interest in cost pushing, but it's not really cost pushing because our budget is the town's budget. I mean, anyway, but yeah, I don't think that there is, but I could definitely be missing. It's a lot of numbers.
Getting back to the issue that you brought up with triaging, though, no pun intended, triaging, but
Thank you for getting it.
I would assume that there is triaging, and so if you have a tree that is overhanging wires that affects a building that has a major impact on the town, I'm pretty sure that goes to the top of the list. And this would be one of those cases where if it's a tree that is on town-owned property, is that correct?
The tree is on town property.
So the tree's on town property, it's, the grounds, we talk about the resurfacing of the parking lot, right? It's outside of the building of the school, it's outside of the envelope of the building of the school, yet, that's not something that comes out of the school budget, typically comes out of the town budget. Mike was right to say that the money that we spend on this is all the taxpayers' money, so whether it comes from the school budget or comes from the town budget, it's still coming out of somebody's bucket. The problem is obviously, do we want to spend $2,000 of our money, which would be spent on education, to pay for the removal of a tree? I definitely would be in favor of the removal, simply because it's going to be an issue again at some point. I don't think it's fair to save $1,100 so that we can kick the can down the road 5 years and run into more problems. So, but I would definitely push to the town to say, listen, it's on town land. We lease the schools from you. If I'm renting an apartment and there's a limb there's a tree that's a potential hazard overlying the driveway, it's not up to the lessee to remove the tree. It's up to the property owner.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. So the town gave us this budget to educate our children, and for us to take money from educating our children to taking down a tree. I mean, it's all the town's money, right? At the end of the day, we have Hamden and Wilbraham's money, in our budget. I just, I really think if we have a tree warden, he has a list. I'd like to add this on to the list. I didn't think there was any, no one's in imminent danger of the tree. I understand that, but.
Unless perhaps if they're in the shed. The tree warden clearly described it, that branches could fall in the shed and could damage the shed.
Did the tree warden recommend that he would take it down, or did he think it's the school committee? I know we're taking a lot of time on this, but yeah, I think this is important to get to whose responsibility this is, right?
His report just gives an assessment on the tree's health, and, I mean, tell me if I'm interpreting wrong, but it talks about the tree's health, things are good, things are, it's got some big branches like every tree, and then, came up with the recommendations for other ways to go. He didn't particularly, I think it would not be the place of the report to say who should pay for it. And I wasn't suggesting that they don't take down the tree to save money. I was just suggesting, a tree that is healthy has value. It produces shade, it's a sugar maple. Students could, harvest sap and make maple syrup as a class project one day. A sugar maple with a trunk that's like 36 inches in size. That's a tree that's been around a long time. It's not like if you regret taking it down, you can say, okay, well, we can go to the store and buy another one of those suckers. And that's not the case at all. You can buy a little shrub, and then 15, 20 years later, you have another tree that's like that. So I see a healthy tree that has a lot of value that I wouldn't want to see destroyed, unless it really happened. But that's my view.
Yeah, it says 2 years, I think. I'm sorry, try one quick second. The time frame for likelihood of failure of the tree or part of the tree in this tree risk assessment is 2 years.
I just wanted to offer a point of clarification on the risk assessment. It wasn't actually done by the tree warden. It was prepared for the tree warden by someone from Northern Tree Service. That was an independent evaluation.
I just want to look at two parts. I'm not in favor of us going into the tree removal business. The tree is considered a moderate risk from limited visual inspection, and then if you go to a few pages more, timeline for mitigation for a moderate risk situation. It may not require mitigation, but if deemed necessary, it could be mitigated when the budget, work schedule, and pruning cycle allows. If the risk is acceptable to the client, the tree could be retained and monitored. All of this, to me, does not sound like what we have personnel for or money for. It's town property.
So for those that are watching, the cost of printing is $900, and we're looking to, that would, I guess, conceivably, we would be considering splitting that cost by 50%. And the option for removing the tree is $2,000. So it'd be either, for printing would cost us approximately $450, and the removal of the tree would be $1,000.
So
Who says it would cost us $450? Where did this 50% come from?
When I believe it came from the town of Wilbraham, they were asking if we would share the cost. So if we look at the cost of from Oregon Tree, the estimate of $900,
They want to
sharing
share,
the cost is 50/50 would be.
they want to share the cost of our Chromebooks. I mean, you know,
I mean, Hamden is 20% roughly of our budget, and they'll be paying for 10% of the tree removal.
That's a very good point, Sean. That would be very inappropriate for us to allocate Hamden dollars towards any care to a tree that could bring any
I would make a motion that we kick it back to the Board of Selectmen and just say, listen, your property, your tree, your issue. Our recommendation is that we mitigate the problem. You know, I love trees too. I don't think you're gonna get enough, I don't think you're gonna draw enough sap off of one sugar maple to make a gallon, I think even a cup of maple syrup. But I will say that, you know, being a tree lover, I just think that, you know, let the town make their decision. You know, if they want to spend $900 to prune it, in 3 years, they're going to have to go back and start pruning it again. That's their money, they can spend it that way. But like I said, I mean, that's, it's theirs. And Sean's point is 100% correct. We're going to be taking Hamden money to spend it on Wilbraham property.
Do I have a second?
What was the
motion?
What was the motion? The send motion?
Send it back to the Board of Selectmen to pay for the removal of the tree.
Second. Hey, by the way, just got a text from Rich Rediker. I just saw it popped up. He is just back from Morocco. He's landed at JFK. He's watching this meeting right now. So he just wanted to say that he would vote to spare the tree's life.
We'll let the town decide. We're just giving it back to them.
Okay, any additional discussion or comments? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Is that opposed?
If Rich is watching this meeting, is he considered gavelled in? He probably is.
No, I think he's as a participant.
I'm sorry. I think if he's gaveled in, he's listening, he's a participant. If he wants to call in, or I can call him right now and see if we could have him on, and we'll just have him be on live. So.
Probably welcome.
Yeah, can you text him before you call him?
Oh, I'll text him before I call.
Yes, please, thank you.
I just don't want to run
Just
afoul
text
of
him if he wants
the
to make a
meeting.
comment, just call you on your cell, hold it up to the microphone. We'll consider him in attendance.
Should I call him?
So at this point, though, no one was opposed? Okay, so as it stands currently, until we hear from possibly Rich, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. So we will continue with the appointment of Adam Guerin, the interim director of student services.
Just one quick intermission here. The message I sent to Rich was, should I call you so you can be a part of the meeting? Full disclosure.
Thank you. Good evening. So, first of all, I'd like to let the committee and the community know that contract negotiations with Joshua Dixon were successful. And we are really looking forward to having him join our district. In conversations with his superintendent, one of the things that came up was how important it is to have a special education director at this time of year. This is probably the busiest time for special education, not that there's ever a slow time, but you're doing the transition meetings for all students who are changing schools, which because of our configuration means a lot of kids are changing schools. You're also having to turn in some important state reports. You are required to hire all the staff for the summer program, set up all the transportation for the summer program, and those are all enormous tasks. However, the same thing that is true for Northampton is true for us. We need somebody to do all those tasks. My request of you tonight is that you would appoint Adam Brand as the interim director of special education. Adam has done this kind of work before, and I just don't know how we will get through the next couple of months if we don't have someone at the helm. So I would just ask for your agreement to appoint him to that position on an interim basis until Josh can start.
I make a motion to accept the contract of employment between Adam, is it Guerin?
Here. Yep.
and the Hampton Regional School Committee for the position of interim director of special education.
Second.
All in favor?
Just a quick question, sorry, just a quick question, budget-wise, this comes out as sped revolving.
This will come out of the position, the special education director position is now vacant, so we'll have funds through the end of the year, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. Congratulations and thank you so much.
Adam, thank you so much for doing that.
And I know, John, you held that position before. I'm sure you can guide Adam through any issues that he has as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We're a team.
Okay, now we're going to move to the elementary grade school choice vote. It's back to you.
Okay, so I'd received some communications after the vote last week from members indicating that they didn't realize that denying the school choice recommendations for the elementary grades would result in us collapsing the 3 classes that are currently in that bubble group in Green Meadows into 2 classes. And so we just had some conversation about bringing it back up as a potential vote so that people are clear, and if anyone wishes to discuss that, implications of that further, there's an opportunity to do that.
I'd like to talk about the grade level. I believe it's a first grade level that would be affected. Is that right?
Second grade in Green Meadows.
Second grade?
Sorry,
And,
currently second grade.
Going into 3rd.
and the class size goes from what to what?
So I'm just going to reference the enrollment figures for this month. You can see that, I can't find that. Oh, there it is. Right. So we're talking about in the Green Meadows class, this group right now that is, I believe, 52 students. They would then, and they're currently spread over 3 classes. Those same 52 would go into 2 classes. So that would be starting with 26 per class.
That's a lot. That's a lot for lower elementary. And what happens to the job of the teacher whose job will be distinguished?
Well, we don't know what would happen. Certainly, there are sometimes opportunities for people to move to other positions within the district. Without getting into the characteristics of or longevity of the individual who's currently in the position, I don't know that there would necessarily be any automatic bumping that was created by that. But certainly, there would be a reduction in force. There would be 1 less position, and whoever is the incumbent in that position would either have to find another job within the district or another job somewhere else.
So, I just have a couple of questions. So there's 52 kids in the 2nd grade right now, and there's 3 teachers.
Yes.
So there's 37 kids in the subsequent class.
17, 17, 18. Those are the 3 classes, I guess, right?
I don't know. I'm just looking at, so we have 3 teachers at the 2nd grade level right now. I mean, obviously this comes down to money, right? So where's the salary coming from for that 3rd teacher for this year? Is that?
So we absorbed that position. One of the things we offered last year was that we would put up 11 school choice seats in that class. The committee agreed to that. We were only able to fill 4 of those seats. So we have a shortfall in funding that position. We had a shortfall. We've absorbed that cost, but in this year's budget, we can't absorb that cost. So the effort in this case was to spread those seats out a little bit. In talking to Cheryl, she also felt that that was better developmentally for the students throughout the school, not only in that class, but in other classes.
So the slippery slope that we're getting onto, and this is new territory for this committee in this district. We've never used school choice as a way to support the addition of teachers. We did last year with the assistant principal position here, but we've always done it to fill space. And so I caution us, I understand, I caution us in this approach simply because we are now adding school choice to basically fund a position. With only 4 people coming in, that's $20,000, only 4 kids. So, one of the things that we've talked about with school choice is that we're never accepting school choice children and then using that money to turn around to add teachers, which we're kind of doing here. And, I think that's a slippery slope because, it sort of changes the milieu of how we've looked at school choice up until this point. Whereas we've done it, we've been able to tell the residents of our 2 towns that school choice isn't really impacting your budget at all because, these are just spaces that would otherwise remain empty. We're just rounding out classes. But in this case, the need to add all these elementary school positions are to basically fund another teacher.
Can you review where the children would come in, what classes that we're offering for Green Meadows for the school choice?
So you have a memo, it's the same memo as last time that lists where those elementary students would be in classes. Again, we tried to spread them out. There is also space available at Sewell Road. Right, and these are just available seats, right? We're not, in these cases, we're not expanding anything.
So, I said this before, I think that we're overcrowded. We can't say we're overcrowded in the middle school and then go accepting school choice students into the grade schools. We just can't. It's either we need more students in the school district or we're overcrowded in the middle school. Those 2 things are completely contrary. Now, I would implore you to keep the 3rd teacher and find a way to absorb it into the budget. That would be my thought. Maybe we don't buy as many new projectors. I think a living, breathing teacher is a lot more valuable than projectors. Okay? We do have a big budget. My thought would be to find a way to work the 3rd teacher into the budget because I don't want the classes that big, but I also don't want to see the extra heads coming to the school district and if, maybe one day we will come up with a solution to the middle school problem, but right now we're not really close to one. And there may not be one in the foreseeable future. So I think my personal opinion is we have to be very responsible about that.
I also think we have to be responsible about, sorry, it's my voice. I told Aaron I was allergic to this room. Pretty sure I am. We work really hard to make sure that the numbers of children in primary grades were low enough to support their education and their ability to learn what they need to learn in the primary setting. I do not see 26, 27 kids in a 3rd grade, going into a 3rd grade.
I'm with you, Cheryl, 100%. What I'm saying is keep the teacher and find the $20,000 somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. I'm basically responding to the notion that it's a fiscal. I don't see it as fiscal. I see it as education.
So for seats, we're looking at Green Meadows, we're looking for 2 choice seats, and there are 2 METCO seats. Grade 2, we were looking for 3 choice seats. Green Meadows, grade 4, we were looking for 3 choice seats. Sewell Road, we're looking at 9 choice seats. And then we already approved the seats and for both choice and Metcalf High School.
Can I ask, what is the average class size? We have 7 classes. What are the class sizes for 4th grade, or will be for 4th grade under this? 4th grade next year?
In which school?
Sewell Road, 4th grade. They say there's 7 classes, and they're going to take 9 choice students.
That will be, that should be, that number comes up to 154, so that would be 22 in a class.
So Hampton would have 17 and 18, Wilbraham would have 22 to support the 17 and 18 in Hampton.
That's if the seats are that includes the 7 seats. Are you including that? Because right now,
The who?
9.
In,
the Sewell Road number,
in grade 4 at Sewell Road.
yes.
Next year, I believe there are 145 now, or when I wrote this memo, I had 145. Adding 9 would bring it to 154. So that should be grade 3 now at Stony Hill, which will be grade 4 at Sewell Road. So 145 plus 9 is 154, divided by 7 is 22, I believe.
Do we have any money in the budget? I thought I remembered something that there was $14,000 and we needed to come up more. Is there any money in the budget already for this position at all?
So there, I mean, we brought in 4 school choice seats last year, right? I mean, that would help offset to some degree. I mean, you know, as I shared, we're already kind of, you know, overspending a little bit what we take in, but, you know, the goal is to kind of normalize that.
So I'm just looking, sorry, I'm just looking at the numbers right now. So based on we have the grade 4 numbers at Sewell Road right now, the October 1st numbers were 149, but currently, as of 3/1, there's 162 students at Sewell Road. So if we do 162, there's 7 sections in Sewell. So quick math would come out to 18.
162 divided by 162. 23.
23. Oh, sorry, you know, yeah, so
23.142857.
So that's a big jump. So we're adding 9 more seats on grade 4, which will bring the class size to 24 and 25 in some of those classes, right?
If it jumped up to that level, sure.
So if you added 9, well, based on the proposal, we have 9 students slated for grade 4 at Sewell Road. So if we add those 9 students, that's going to bring you to 171, right?
So right now in grade 3, I believe there are 145. Right? So we're looking at this current grade 3 at Stony Hill. I believe there are 145.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Add 9 brings you to 154.
So add not 154. Okay.
Yeah. And a little bit, I mean, I think what you were sort of getting at is, you know, the numbers now aren't always what are October numbers. We have move-ins, we have move-outs.
Yeah.
We know there's a little bit of risk with this. You know, if a few students move in, you know, and talking to Misty, you know, she felt like that was doable. Not certain we're going to get 9 students at that grade, but, you know, if the school committee had a different number, I mean, but, you know.
What if, like last year, only 4 students accepted? You know, then we promised this based on being paid through choice, but then only 4 students accept any of these seats. Then we're left, again, in the position that we are right now, funding it without the correct money from school choice to pay for it. So is there a way that we can fund this without using school choice? I think until we understand what's going on with the regional agreement and the changes we make there, what we decide we want to do with school choice, and what's going on with the middle school, with all the buildings, I really think it would really hamstring us to put more school choice at anything other than the high school until we really know what's going on, and we should know within a year. So, but is there any other way that we could fund this money? I know the budget's really tight. I don't know.
If there were the 2 classrooms at Green Meadows with 26 students per classroom, and you had 5 or 6 move-ins, how many students do you then decide that you need to add additional classroom on?
Well, just to take this question, there's a conversation that I was actually involved with to some degree earlier this week, because we're also looking at a large number of potential new preschool students that have just come forward in the past couple of weeks. So there may be a requirement to add a preschool. So the question is, how do you do that? So we have another position right now that I'm asking Sharon to take a look at converting into a preschool position instead of using it for what it was originally thought of. It was a special education position. So I'm asking her, can you take that and make it a preschool class, a preschool teacher instead of a special education teacher? That would be, my answer for how you could fund it without adding choice. We'd have to figure out some other positions that could be converted. It's the only way I know how to do it.
So I guess I just wanted to add that as an educator, I do believe that small class sizes are better, but I don't think it should be funded with school choice. And I think the issue at the middle school, those aren't appropriate classroom sizes either. Like what's going on there isn't attainable as well. Absorbing, as we're doing in Agawam, we're also doing budgeting. So I feel like there's other ways that it could be manipulated to have a 3rd teacher if need to be. But I just can't agree to it when the middle school is filled right now.
Also, if you take, what Michelle said was valid. What if 5, 4th graders move in next year to Hamden? And if we extrapolate that due to sizes, what if 20 4th graders move into Wilbraham?
Well,
It's like we need another teacher there, and it's like, 22 I think is too high, and I think 20
we also
26
have
is
buildings that don't have the ability to add another teacher right now, even if they needed it. So I'm not saying this is the way it should be because it happened to my children, but both of my children were in bubble classes, and they, out of elementary, had 27 kids the entire time they were in elementary, and there was no option to even add a teacher. So when there is an option, I do believe you should add another teacher because smaller is better, but I don't think it should be funded by adding choice students when at the middle school is overcrowded right now. If we had a solution, if I was presented with a solution to help with the middle school, to make some more room, then I would consider it, but.
The other question I have is, how many choice kids do we have right now at Green Meadows, in addition to the ones that we're asking for? Because I know we've approved other choice suits in the past. I don't know if we have those numbers in front of us.
I don't have those numbers in front of me. I know we had the 4 who came in last year, and I know we have a small scattering of numbers across the grades, probably 4 or 5 more throughout the grades. It's not a tremendous number, but there's a few scattered.
Do you know how many students we lose moving from elementary to middle school
Say again?
each year? How many students we lose?
I would imagine there are other opportunities, other educational
Yeah.
choices.
So how many students we lose when they transition from I don't offhand know how many we lose, I haven't looked that up. Yeah.
I have a clarification question. So the proposal for the 9 school choice students at Sewell Road, what are they funding? They're not funding the teacher at Green Meadows, are they?
It's generally going into the school choice fund to help run the district. I mean, on some level, we use choice to run the district. We have $835,000 this year of school choice money slated to help run the district. You know, to some degree, when we have that much money every year that's needed to run the district, I feel like there's a bit of an obligation to try to make sure that we are continuing to kind of put money into savings as we take it out. So, you know, it was a number. It's not necessarily designed to offset anything. We have years when we may have to take out more choice. We may get a very high cost out of district placement that we have to fund out of choice or from somewhere. As you know, we burned through our E&D, so our choice is kind of what we've got left. So that's the way I saw it. It's, you know, it's not, my budget is not my savings account. I'm just trying to offer some options. So when we're laying this out, I'm completely agnostic to whether we do choice. I'm just, you know, this is trying to provide that sort of solution and, you know, sort of a sustainable plan. You know, if the committee wants to suggest we, you know, don't buy one thing, you know, that's your direction.
I personally wouldn't suggest and tell the district or the principals, you specifically shouldn't buy this. I would think the principals could look at and in discussion with you guys, figure out a solution.
I think what he's talking about are the Chromebooks that we were planning on buying.
If I can offer where, in a little bit, we're going to be having a discussion about the fiscal 25 budget, and that probably has something to do with the votes by FinCom, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to play as well, and we're going to have a conversation probably about where might that money come out of, right? So now we're talking about 2 big pieces of money, right? Relatively big pieces of money, and where those votes.
Presumption of what the committee might decide, or discussion that hasn't happened yet.
Well, no, but I'm warning you that there's a double discussion that's going to be happening here, right? It's my only intent.
The issue that I see is that choice it's a double-edged sword. You know, it cuts both ways. It cuts because it helps offset some overruns in the budget that we may have and help us to mitigate the amount that we need to dig into the choice revolving account to be able to balance our budget. However, at the same time, it cuts the other way because if you're bringing in 44 choice students, and if they come in 2nd grade, they're in our district for that amount of time. So, you know, and as we look at the utilization of this building and potential to move the 8th grade here, you know, obviously, I mean, if you're taking 27, I know we've gone as high as, I believe, 33. If I remember correctly, we had one class where we had 33 choice students that come in. So in this building alone, if you just average 25, 100 students, 100 plus students in this building are school choice kids. And so, you know, I think as a school district, we have the responsibility to the residents of our 2 towns to put the children of the residents of our 2 towns sort of at the top of the list. But when we look at moving students into this building, obviously, you know, we're going to say, well, you know, you're going to make a crowding issue. Well, that's the other side of the sword, right? Because we have all those school choice kids. It's bringing money in, but at the same time, it's probably hampering what it is that we're trying to do. I'm looking at more of a, I'm trying to look at it more as a long distance plan and sort of where we are going in terms of how we use school choice. And like I said, this is it's kind of a shift in how we've used school choice in the past. And so, you know, it's a discussion that I think needs to be had to make sure that we understand that, you know, and you said before, and there are districts, I think it was Lee, you had mentioned to me, is dependent on school choice, right? They've got what percentage of kids?
So, I don't remember half. I mean, some of these districts, I know Pelham has been half. There's a number of districts that
So
are half the choice.
But that's, I mean, and that's the way they've, you know, that's the way they've chosen to keep their district afloat and keep their numbers up. You know, whereas for us, I mean, our numbers have plateaued, they stabilized based on the NASDAQ data. We're not really going anywhere in the next 10 years. You know, and so when we start adding numbers of students to that total, and then we begin to impact the number of teachers that we have. And I'm fully for having a third teacher in that room. I mean, I would never want to be in a classroom with 26, 27 students. And I know we've done it in the past. And it's educationally inappropriate at that level. I don't think that's a great way to educate students. But I have a problem with, you know, continuing to add choice seats as a way to mitigate the budget shortfall.
So,
Just got to, oh, I'm sorry.
the, just looking at the number of seats that are available between Choice and Metco. So as you can recall, we voted each building individually. We don't have to approve all of them. Like if the committee decides to not approve the 9 seats at School Road, that's a possibility, and still be able to meet that teacher and I guess cover the salary for the most part for that teacher at Green Meadows. Yeah. So we're looking at a total of, it looks like 11 seats at Green Meadows, and then that total between the 3 grades, and then School Road, there's 9 students. We vote on each class.
That's 8 choice students, I'm sorry. 6, 3, 3, and 2 at Green Meadows.
2, 5, 8, oh, 10, I'm sorry, it's 10 students, because of 2 Metco as well. There's 2 choices.
Yeah, we already approved the Metco students.
At Green Meadows?
Yep, they were approved.
Okay, so then it's, so my apologies.
No one's gonna argue against me.
So, anyway, but we were talking about whether or not we have to approve the School Road.
Yeah, I think Aaron made a good suggestion. This, for money reasons, is kind of linked to budget discussion, so maybe we want to
Actually, can I
move
float
to
an
budget
idea?
discussion and then talk about this, finish this.
Before you table this, I got an idea, and it was inspired by that gentleman over there with his, when he was talking about the letter and where he came from. And it just made me think, well, what if we got that extra class, right? So we have a 3rd class, and then fill it up with Wilbraham students to go there, so that all the classes are in the 2021 level, and so therefore Wilbraham and Hamden all benefit from having the class sizes the same.
It would be great if we didn't have a regional agreement.
So I think that's a great idea, Sean, and it makes a move towards better equity, right? Because while we're worried about the class size in Green Meadows, this is an area with disequity. We have bigger problems with class sizes in some ways in Florida than what we've been talking about happening.
Yeah, because adding 15 students, right? Like adding 15 students that go to the high school, we already have 100 that we need to decrease the middle school by, right?
Yes, but the big problem is Aaron's telling us we have to do it because we need the money. And if we move Wilbraham students over to Green Meadows, which we might find enough that willingly went, maybe if we sent an email to everybody, that wouldn't bring in any extra revenue to the district. So it wouldn't help fund the extra teacher.
I mean, if they live all over town in Wilbraham, though, that won't help with busing.
Well, once again, I argue Green Meadows is the best grade school we have in the school district. And it's not hard to imagine there might be some families that live near the end of the line that might willingly move, have their kid go to Green Meadows if they were guaranteed to stay there and then, until they got to middle school. But
The cost doesn't cover
it doesn't fix the money problem.
Yeah.
We also get into the equity piece when we talk about grade configuration. Because quite frankly, we have two towns with two very dissimilar grade configurations. So, you know, you've got some students, you know, some kids are moving into a school with a different grade configuration, right? So you move them in for, you know, second grade, and then they're there through to fifth grade. It's a very global discussion. So I would say the 6 bodies, or the 8 choice students that you have at Green Meadows, at least in terms of the dis-equity piece, you can kind of split the baby on this. I'm not in favor of the idea of funding positions using school choice dollars. However, and also taking into account Sean's point and saying that we're adding 9 students at Sewell Road for the sake of funding a 3rd position at Green Meadows. If it was up to me, I'd get rid of town lines because I think Sean's recommendation is great. I also have very strong feelings about, you know, about normalizing grade configurations in both towns because it is unfair. It's unfair to some students who think that every 2 grades is great. It's unfair to students who think going through one building is great. So if we wanted to do the kids, the grades at the choice seats at Green Meadows, there would be 8 there, 5,000. You might get a little bit more depending on who you get for school choice kids. You know, you'd be looking at 40,000, and then you have another 4 students that were school choice that you brought in last year. So that's another 20,000. So you're up to 60,000 in school choice seats, which now your delta between how much you're taking in school choice to be able to fund those seats is much smaller, and so we're looking at a much smaller chunk that we would take out of the choice revolving account. And I understand, so choice revolving account is basically the last frontier, right? E&D's dead, right? There's nothing there. We'll get money back next year, although we don't know how much. And so, you know, I absolutely agree with you. Savings is important. I think prudence does play a role in this, but also understanding the long-range goals of the district and, you know, not going back on what we've said for years in how school choice would be used, and that is to basically fill voids that would otherwise just remain unfilled. So I would make a motion that we approve the 8 at Green Meadows, but there's 2, 3, and 3, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. There's 8 at Green Meadows and there's 9 at Sewell Road. So I would say that I make a motion that we approve the 8 at Green Meadows, but we do not approve the 9 at Sewell Road.
Is there a second? Bill, can you repeat the motion?
No, I heard the motion, so I'm trying to figure out how that will configure the classes.
Any consideration to us discussing the budget and then coming back to this?
I like that idea.
Especially since Bill's motion appears to have no second. Doesn't bode well.
I'll second
Roll call.
what Mike just said about delaying discussion of this until after we talk about the budget.
The question that I have is we've already voted on the budget and we are inside the 45 days. So whatever we voted on the budget is how much money there is. Because we can't change the article on the warrant.
But I thought we can. I thought we did last year, didn't we?
We can't change we're not allowed to alter the number. That's why we have to have a vote 45 days before the town meeting. It's state law. You can't change the budget number.
But I think we can change the budget number, and we did so last year, didn't we?
Is it for like the amendment though?
No, we just submitted, we submitted the warrants were submitted, but then we edited the warrant. So the warrant has been submitted on a vote from 45 days before town meeting, but we, in theory, we can, we did it last year, right? I mean, I'm not getting anyone saying I'm right here. Did not we change?
I don't remember offhand where we came in and how that
It's not for
happened.
anything.
We had that meeting at the police station, and
Right.
I don't know how quickly after the votes that was, and maybe that was within the 45 days.
It
That
was
was
not
still
within the
beyond the
45.
45 days, I don't know.
This may be a moot point unless the majority of the committee is in favor of cutting the budget in response to this. Which I don't know. I only know my personal views.
All right, does everyone understand the motion?
No.
Okay, did you second, John? If you did.
I second Mike's motion, I did not second Bill's
Bill has
motion.
the motion on the table, so I will second Bill's motion.
Okay. I don't think we should do anything with school choice until we know what the future of our district's going to be. I think that would be irresponsible for us to do so by bringing more students in when we're already busting at the seams at other schools, especially the middle school. Until we decide what we're going to do and have a plan for it, I don't think we should make any rash decisions. At the same time, I would love to have another teacher so we could, help alleviate the class sizes of 26. But I am 100% against using school choice right now for anything.
So I throw it out there as a, as a project.
I throw it out there as a compromise to it. I mean, 835,000 in the choice revolving account. There's 835,000 in the choice
Well, we're
revolving.
using 835 from choice.
Okay. How much is in that?
1.3 million.
And we have 20,000 from the school choice seats that we did last year.
Yeah, you could argue that, yeah.
I suppose it's inappropriate to ask what the delta is between the two. Like I said, I totally agree with Sean's
So
point.
some, the 11 seats last year, the seats this year, knowing that we might not fill them, I mean, some of what we're doing is we're really just kind of meeting in the middle. We know we may absorb something on this teacher, but what we're trying to do is make it amenable. If we put out all 8 seats, we may not fill all 8 seats. All 8 seats may not bring us all the way to the cost of a teacher.
Right.
That cost of a teacher can vary, who we hire, where they sit. We could hire someone, very beginning of the bachelor's degree and save money. We could have to hire someone higher. And so there's money, there's a little bit of whenever you create a budget, you're rolling the dice a little bit. And some of what we're saying here is, this is a number where we're willing to kind of roll the dice and see where they fall, right? And we feel okay about that. With 0, I get harder saying we're going to roll the dice, right? So, we may end up having a wonderful budget year and have plenty of room to afford this teacher and 6 more. But the degree to which I'm willing to roll the dice on that is better the smaller that delta is, right? Our challenge too is, Green Meadows is a small school. There's only on average, there's only 2 classes per grade level. When you have small numbers and you deal with small sample sizes, you have very high variance. So that's what gets us to have them having many more bubble classes than Wilbraham does, right? Wilbraham can pretty consistently know they're going to have 7 classes every year. Green Meadows, you almost should plan for 1 bubble class every cycle through. I've dealt with very small schools that have only 1 class per grade level, and they make sure to budget for a potential bubble class at any point. So even if they have none, they have that budgeted and planned for. That's the problem when you deal with small schools and small sample sizes.
I'd like to make a motion that we table the vote until after we discuss the budget.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay. Motion carries. We're tabling this. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we'll move on to new business, the discussion of the cell tower.
Sure. So I am just bringing to your attention the request for proposals for a cell tower to be located near the soccer fields that are near the middle school and Stony Hill. Nick had brought this to all the department heads and said, please run this by your boards, and so if they wish to provide any feedback on it, they can do so. My own thought about this is that I think it might be advisable for me, unless you feel otherwise, share it with the school community and just let the residents of our community know that this RFP is out there, so that if anyone wishes to make comment, they can.
And it looks like it would bring into the town $45,001 a year in lease payments to the town.
Well, it's a request for proposals, so they're saying that would be what they consider to be a highly advantageous proposal, but it will depend on what the vendors.
All this for,
So we don't have any idea what it will look like. Where are we talking the exact location here? Are we talking like, no, I know the middle school and I know the Falcon soccer fields. Are we talking like somewhere where those trees are between the middle school parking lot and the soccer field parking lot? Are we talking in the soccer parking lot, which the soccer club might not be thrilled about?
I can't give any more information than what's in the documents. I did Google this parcel just to see where it was, and it's kind of like, looks like to me kitty corner between the fields and the school.
This is, again, this is town-owned property, correct?
I assume.
I don't know, again, if we're in the business of sort of advertising, marketing, and getting into the telecommunications business.
Hey, Bill, do you think we would have to cut down the trees on the school property?
No.
In favor of saving the trees.
You know, I would actually like, could you ask the question if the school district would be required to pay half of cutting down the trees and clearing that property? No, I'm serious, could you please ask that question?
Just to clarify, my thought was not about trying to assist with the RFP process. If parents come to school next fall and there's this cell tower behind middle school, I wouldn't want someone to say, superintendent, you could have let us know.
No, and I don't think it's, I don't think that's a bad thought. However, at the same time, you know, like if there is a thought that they would put a cell tower there, I would hope that there would be communication. I mean, right now this is just an RFP, right? We don't have any, there's nobody on the line for this, there's nobody that's actually responded to this. If it gets further on down the road, then I would hope there would be coordination with the town of Wilbraham and the superintendent's office, so that, yes, there could be outreach to the parents to let them know that, you know, that this is something that the town is planning on doing. And I would hope that the Board of Selectmen would be able to offer the residents of the town the opportunity to voice their concerns, or you know, to at least, you know, to have a more public discussion about it. Cell phone towers don't have to be ugly. I mean, there are ways in which you can disguise them and make them look like trees, and, you know, it wouldn't be a sugar maple, you wouldn't be able to get sap out of it or do a science experiment. But again, you know, it's just an RFP. I think
So you're gonna put a cell tower right next to a school? I mean, with the...
we talking about putting one on the roof.
We were talking about putting on the roof there, and we decided against it because it just wasn't prudent or economical or anything.
Well, I think at that time, I mean, what they were offering us for...
But then remember we had Gagliabucci, didn't she come in here and tell us something about the radiation coming out of towers? Wasn't that one of the reasons why we were trying to, I'll have to go back and check my notes.
I thought it was part of it was that the roof would have to be replaced more often, because the towers would have to be
bolted.
bolted. Surprise, surprise.
it's certainly not a bad way to look at getting in revenue. Again, I put it back to the town because, you know, much like we had the vote earlier about the tree, it's their property, right? I mean, we just lease it. So if the town decides that they want to put a cell tower on the school property, that's their prerogative. You know, I think as a school committee, our role in that is pretty limited in terms of what influence we have, other than to maybe say to them, you know, there are some residents who are concerned about having a cell tower there because of X. That's how I would leave it. And then, like I said, if somebody comes forward and you know, is actually interested in responding to this RFP, then I think the discussion could be broad.
Any other comments?
I think we should just stay out of it. It's town's business. It's not going to endanger any students. So,
I would like to know
there is
that
horrible
tree.
cell phone signal both in the middle school and at the soccer fields. One can only imagine a tower between the two would be helpful.
John just wants to know how many trees are going to be cut down.
How many are we gonna have to pay for it? And all
I just
honesty,
looked
if
at it on the
it's
parcel
school,
map, I would say probably about 20 or 30 trees.
so we would have to
Right
pay
next
half
to
the
the
power.
power.
Yeah.
But it's like right next to the power lines. It's probably what it'll come in.
Okay, we will move on to the Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Operations, and Human Services, Aaron.
Alrighty, so you have 3 items, you have 3 items on the list there. I'm going to start by, though, mentioning you have a financial report in your packet. Somehow it didn't end up as an item on the list. I don't have anything new to say. Everything's trending the same way it's been trending. The only thing I'd say is, you know, McKinney-Vento transportation continues to be challenging. That's homeless transportation. I shared it last time, and that's just kind of what it is. Overall, though, we're still in pretty good shape for the year as a whole, and you know, I'm hoping we're going to finish the year solid.
When you talk about McKinney-Vento, can you give us some numbers?
I'm sorry, say again?
Can you give us some numbers on McKinney-Vento? I mean, this is a discussion that we had at the budget roundtable last week, and you know, like putting some numbers.
I could get that for you for the next meeting. It's a moving target. It's been a growing target this year. So I just approved invoices for last month for McKinney-Vento totaling $14,000. It did not start the year that way, and you know, even as we were going through budget for next year, we didn't imagine it was going to be. It's been a big year for all of that. I think it's a lot of, again, I hate to say it, but post-COVID stuff still going on. You know, and there is some hope maybe that it'll level off, but it's going to be a going challenge as we go. But I'll pull some numbers on that, absolutely.
And that's from 14,000 for a month?
For a month, yes.
Extrapolate that out a year.
Yeah, well, we figured 12 times 12 is 144, so kind of $168,000 if that were true. You know, McKinney-Vento can sometimes come and go, ebb and flow, so, you know, our hope is that it's not going to stay that way.
No, the only problem is that every $14,000 invoice comes out of our general fund.
Right, absolutely correct.
There's no McKinney-Vento revolving account. There's no money that comes in. It literally is just, it's off the top and out the window every single time you pay it. And I think it is a big discussion because it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? So you've got all of these mandates by the state, but no mechanism to actually fund it. It's probably one of the most frustrating things that I've seen being on this committee for 9 years, is that the state just continues to pile these requirements on school districts, but just simply, you know, shakes their head and shrugs and walks away when you ask for more money to actually fund it. That's a shame.
Correct. So, to better news, you have 3 memos and 3 sets of documents with you. The first is actually an update to our fiscal 22 audit. Because of all of the ESSER funds from ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, Auditors have been instructed by the state to go back to prior years and look at what we closed out some of our ESSER grants on and make sure that there's no issues with how we close those out. There are no issues. Their report basically just says everything's fine, same as it was, nothing changes. So that clears us out in fiscal 22. Fiscal 23, the first of those you will see my end-of-year report audit. So every year I put out an end-of-year report to the state. That is audited. They have no exceptions, which are basically findings to my report. I don't think I've ever, I turned one in 1 year when they didn't have any adjustments whatsoever. They will have a couple adjustments for me to make, but they're non-material. They're small items, typos, things like that. Finally, you have our big audit report, our single audit report. You will see that consists of 3 major documents. One is just informational to the school committee, the other is a single audit report, and the third is our financial statements. I don't expect you to dig too deeply into them. The key thing to take away is there are no findings. This is our 4th year in a row with no findings. We're pretty happy about that. I don't avoid findings, I don't fight findings. Findings are learning opportunities. Interesting this year, we usually get a management letter that details areas where they think we could make improvements, where there are some items that didn't rise to the level of being findings, but they wanted to address. We did not receive a management letter either, so they would never leave without giving us any suggestions. They did this yesterday. We did get a list of, I'm not sure what they're calling them, minor suggestions from the auditor, and we're going through them right now just to respond to some of those. So another good year. Lunch for my department's going to be on me next week as a celebration, and we'll go from there. Any questions? Alrighty.
Good job with that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we will continue with the, actually, public comment. Time for public comment. Do we have anyone here? No one has signed up for public comment this evening. We will continue with subcommittee updates. We will begin with this curriculum subcommittee. So.
Oh, okay.
All right. We didn't say what happened last time, did we? Okay. So at our last curriculum subcommittee meeting, we had Renee Considine give us a presentation. She helps with career readiness and does the internships at Minnetonka, and then she also serves as a counselor when needed. The programming for helping students start sophomore year, I believe. How to search for employment, how to do job applications, interview skills, writing thank you notes, and mock interviews. It continues into junior year, and they try to help the students figure out what they want to do when they graduate from high school. And then senior year, students can apply to do internships in the community. What else should I say, Lisa, about that? It's a lot of work, basically, because there's an educational plan for each student that is doing an internship. So each student has to have an education plan and work with their mentors, get input from their mentors for their grading. But it's really beneficial. My daughter's doing it right now, so thank you, Renee. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the only thing that I was going to add was that our program is more robust than some other internship programs in the area. So students working with their cooperating people, and there's a high level of responsibility. They don't just, show up whenever, and their mentors are providing lots of feedback. They're involved in their grading. As Lisa said, they each have individual learning plans. It's very well run, and by the end, students have learned not only skills related to the area of their internship, but they've also learned those communication skills, showing up on time, the workplace, like those skills that are so important to be able to communicate with people around you, and they depend on you. So Renee does an excellent job.
And keeping track of all of the things that students do too, because I know my daughter has to write up every single day. So 5 days a week, she has to write up what she did. She's at Hamden Veterinary Clinic. She has to write up every day. She has to report to Renee and also do presentations for her. And then I have seen Dr. Peck fill out grading her on how she's doing. That also gets passed back in and feedback on how she's doing. So a lot of keeping track of a lot of things. So that's my update.
Just as an aside, last year I was able to actually be a mentor. And I had a student that rotated through with me, and it's fun. I mean, and Renee does a very good job of sort of keeping tabs, keeping, where the student is. I wasn't nearly as organized as Penny, running reports. But it's an excellent opportunity for students. The one thing that's hard is it's because of the travel time, so that they have a block of time that's set aside for their internship, and obviously that block of time includes travel to and from the site. And so some days, Nick would be in the office, and it would, it's 20 minutes from him to get to Minchog to get to my East Long Meadow office. And he'd be there for maybe an hour, and then he'd have to scoot on back. So, but it is a great program, and especially if kids do have an interest in a particular area, it's an outstanding opportunity to sort of get a feel for what it's like. And for those of you who are interested, he did a very funny YouTube video summarizing his experiences in the office. I love him. He's now a freshman at UConn. He's doing great. And I would say that for people that want to do that, I would say contact Renee, because it is a pleasure to have the kids there and having them participate in what goes on in the day-to-day setting in the office. So good job, Renee. And good job, Lisa.
Everybody does all that.
Who's her name?
Okay, next, planning committee, we are scheduled to meet on April 26th at 5:30 in the district conference room. I will also add that the superintendent evaluation committee is meeting on April 29th at 5 o'clock in the district conference room. So we will move on to the finance and operations subcommittee.
All right, so we have not met since our last meeting, but the town has taken, or finance, has taken a revote, and they changed the amount of money that they said they would give us, the good guy, to the HWRSD, but still it's not the full number that we submitted to them. What was the exact number?
It's 28,700. No.
28 million.
28,750,000. Thank you. That's 47,761 less than the assessment approved by the school committee.
And they've made it clear that the reason that they were withholding money was because they did not approve of the vocational for the 9th grade students. I tell you, it's frustrating because, Bill was the chair of the Budget and Finance subcommittee before myself, and we are always trying to get better with the towns and do better and really integrate them more and to have more communications. And what was frustrating for me was that they were fully intended to fund the budget because of the work that we did to keep it within the parameters that were set up. It just seems like last year they didn't like Thornton Burgess, so they withheld the money for that. And then this year they didn't like that we are we're planning to have vocational offerings for our 9th graders. But as I said at that meeting, that roundtable that we had, you know, as a school committee, you know, the one great thing that we can do, right, is to have more offerings for our students. And especially with the word that they're no longer accepting, you know, first-time applicants in 10th grade, it has to start at 9th grade over at LPVEC, Laura kind of it just seems that I don't understand why that would be what they would pick on. I think what they want us to do is to send back an amendment and take their number. I will not make that motion.
Sean, did we do anything to cut spending throughout the year?
Oh, yes, we did. We cut several positions, and we have, probably sit here and list them all. John, do you have that the memo that you read at the beginning? So at the beginning, one thing I changed was at the beginning of the meeting, we go, what have we done to decrease the budget? Where are we looking for redundancies? Where are we looking for things that we can reduce without really affecting the student-facing funds? And John, could you kind of go over, you don't have to go, just
Sure,
list them.
I'm pulling it up, just give me a second.
Sure.
Like, I know from the budget presentation, we're missing 3 board-certified behavioral analysis for next year,
Right.
5.2 teachers, 2 paras, an assistant principal, 3 school counselors, and custodian, and half of an administrator. I'm so sorry for everything. We're losing all those positions in the budget for next year to try to meet, to try to help with the town's finances. But I think there was also a list of money that we saved.
I don't think we're doing it to help the town's finances. I think we're doing it just so that we can be fiscally responsible with our budget, right? We know this is both towns' money. It is tax monies. We all at this table, at least the school committee side, pay taxes that go to fund this building that we're in. So, go ahead, John.
So, just going through the list, the first thing that's on here is cost of doing the savings, cost avoidance of doing reconfiguration assessment through a third party. Normally when districts think about redoing their regional agreement, they hire someone like Mars to come in and do that for them. That was not the case. It was really just central office staff and additional duties. Those of you who've been on the planning committee know how many days, weeks, months of reporting went into that. So we estimated that at $20,000. Savings, we made a reorganization of this administrative assistants within student services. That was $10,000. We moved some health insurances from the district budget to essentially being funded by the Mass Free Lunch Program for food service workers. That's $7,800 a month. Obtained a Northeast Food Grant for $18,000, a cell phone use grant for $25,000. Got rid of the Zoom license for the school committee. That was $3,600. We were able to reduce the cost of the railing changes, $23,000 from the original estimates. We had staff build a gantry crane to replace the motor, the mini-shock heat motor, $4,000 instead of having someone else do that for us. We have one of our HVAC technicians stripping the old boiler because, as you know, one of the issues and delays are that they don't make the boilers that we have anymore. So we have someone going through and taking all the usable parts off so that we have replacement parts for the remaining boilers. We estimate there's at least $5,000 worth of parts saved there. We did a hot water burning assembly repair internally, $2,500. We had then $106,000 to savings to retiree health insurance. That was kind of just a benefit we had of some changes in people's decisions about what plan they were taking. And then getting into the staff reductions, which you already mentioned, there's $314,000 worth of reductions to Green Meadow staff alone. The move of the program from TWB to the high school, we think will result in a savings of another $75,000 because we'll be able to use staff more efficiently and reduce some positions. We also increased the interest revenue by using the sweep accounts that Aaron was talking about. That's a $40,000 savings, which means we have, or increased revenue, which means we have to go to the town for less money. And then we had a 0% increase in employee health insurance this year, in part because our district really rallied around, and due to Aaron's leadership, rallied around other members to vote for a 0% increase. And then, we had another $100,000 worth of savings in special education. So we did a lot, in other words.
And if you listen to those, it's about being lean. It's about like, well, if we move this program to this building, we can utilize the administration and teachers in this building, and we can, trim. No one wants to let a teacher go. We want to add teachers, not lose teachers. But we're just trying to get lean. And that was, so if you look at everyone step by step, it was just an amazing example of what we are doing. And that add on that our teachers are doing more with less every single year on the backs of our teachers. It's really like we do respect the monies that come from town. We do respect the taxpayers. We are doing our best to make sure that the student-facing is impacted as less as possible. Bill, did you have a comment?
I was going to ask, no bake sales or bottling cans? I'm not sure what else you could ask for. To Sean, I would say, welcome to my world. I remember last year when Cheryl asked me the question, what went wrong? Well, it doesn't matter. It was on finance and operations subcommittee. It's the same issues, and so we're facing the same issue this year that we faced last year. It's just the numbers different, and I understand the finance committee's desire to be fiscally prudent, but at the same time, as a school district and as a school committee, our focus is student achievement. That's it. And so we can cut things that we think are going to improve efficiencies, but at the end of the day, when you hold a knife to our throat and force us to cut more, that it doesn't sit well. We're trying as hard as we can. We're sitting here trying to figure out where the district is headed in the next 10 years. We're talking about school choice seats. We're talking about, a lot of different things that impact the budget. The fact that our E&D is basically bled down to nothing. Never, ever seen that. I know it was done years ago, but in the time that I've been on the school committee, I've never seen E&D drawn down to zero. And so when we draw down to zero, we take all of the money that we would have for any expenditures, any emergency expenditures, and we have nothing there. And in addition, we're being asked to cut another $47,000. I can't agree with that, not as a member of this committee.
So I'd like to say, John, when I heard you read that list, what I heard was the team, I was proud to hear the list. I mean, I hear the team all working together. It seemed like nobody was unwilling to roll up their sleeves, and get dirty, and do some hard work to do what's right for the kids, to do what's right for the school district, to show that we're being fiscally responsible. I was very happy to hear that. I agree with Sean. I don't think it's. I don't understand why or the appropriateness of them targeting vocational education. I've heard a loud voice universally from the town that we need to be doing better for the vocational education of students in our school district. I suspect this year are the only school district in the entire state of Massachusetts where the students don't get the opportunity at the 9th grade, and certainly they won't get any opportunities within our own district going forward if we don't let them have that in the 9th grade because of the changes at Lower Pioneer Valley, which means the out-of-district tuitions will be,
It'll cost us so much more, yeah.
It'll be,
Exactly.
we'll go from $40,000, we'll be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in out-of-state tuition, out-of-district tuitions to Pathfinder, to Smith, which makes also absolutely no sense. The town's voice is also represented in the strategic long-range plan, which demanded the changes in the vocational technical education. So, I don't like not going in accordance with FinCom, but especially because of the issue that this is resting on, and I agree with Sean, watching everything through the year, we were completely transparent, talking with them openly about everything throughout the year. Personally, I will not vote in favor of changing our assessment.
We did learn some lessons about some stuff that we can do better, right? And we will do that better. We will always go back, reflect, what can we do better, what can we do better always. I appreciate everyone on this committee, the Wilbraham FinCom. They were appointed and vetted, I'm sure, and they all have expertise that they're bringing to the table, okay? All the budgets that they look at are complicated, and the departments know what's best because they live and die by the budgets. And if we are considered a department, then so be it. But at the same time, it's, you would think with a budget this big, yeah, sure, we can just cut out, $40,000. And it's like, as we were talking about here earlier, trying to fund another teaching position so we can have kids not 26 in a class, they're bringing it down to 17. Everything affects everything. I'm not willing to have less, Chromebooks. It's just a fact of the life of a Chromebook. Yes, some go a little longer and some go a little less. But if you start messing with that number, it's just going to bite you in the posterior, right? So, yeah, we can, okay, let's not fund the projectors, or let's not do this, or let's not do that, and then everything has an effect. There are teachers that use those, and they're integral to their studies. It's just such a complicated piece. Where do we pull this 40,000 from? I do have to say that Wilbraham and Hampden have been incredibly generous to the school budgets over the years. And to my recollection, I don't know of any time that they've ever said no to our recommendation or voted down. I don't know. Michelle, do you have something that you'd like to add or anything to this? No? Yeah, it's... I recommended the budget that we had, that we put forth. We all did, and I think it's tight. It came in under, technically under the increase that they were planning for, But because of moving some funds around, it spilled over. But still, we were well underneath there. And to be one of the most important things that we brought to say, because we didn't identify where the funding source would come from, or what their perception that we wouldn't, or that we didn't give them. The people on the planning committee didn't say, oh, what would we be willing to give up for that? I just think that I've never heard of that ever being done in some kind of plan like this. So I am very happy with what we have presented. It is so close. Kudos to, like I said, FinCom for working so hard to get us even closer. I think we just should leave it up to the voters at town meeting. But it's dangerous because if it doesn't get voted, there's all kinds of things that happen because of that. And when is Hamden meeting? They're meeting. So it's less than a month from now, right? Just over a month?
It's on, Hampton Town meeting is May 13th at 7 p.m.
Now, the number that Wilbraham Finance had approved is $47,000 less than what we had asked for from the Wilbraham assessment. But that's also going to decrease the Hamden assessment, so you have to keep that in mind, right? So there's another 20% of that, so that's another $9,000. So it's actually not a $47,000 hit, it's actually a $56,000 hit, right? Somewhere around fuzzy math, but.
I believe Hamden Advisory, though, felt they could fully support our budget. Is that correct, Sean?
I believe that is correct, yes.
No.
Okay, so, any other comments or discussion is over?
Yeah. Does anybody here think that we should cut vocational for ninth grade? Nobody, correct?
So it sounds like, just throughout this conversation, that the committee is in favor of moving forward with the budget that we already voted on.
And just to clarify, to Sean's point, what he was talking about, the not identifying the costs, I think that was, I think the idea behind that was to send a message, and, unfortunately, I don't think it's done, I don't think it's the correct venue to do it, but the idea behind it is to sort of say to the school district, hey, we don't like the idea of things being approved without understanding what the long-range financial implications are. If something is approved, we approve it as a budget number. We don't necessarily expect that number is going to climb. It's going to keep on going up. There's going to be added costs. So I think that was, I think that was the meaning behind it. However, the impact of it is, to me, is drastic. The impact is, and I would never, ever, ever want to use that as the whipping boy for this budget, because, there was 90% of the people in that strategic plan said that vocational education was one of the most important things that they felt our district needed to improve.
Okay. So is it fair to say that the committee would like to proceed with the number that we corrected? Okay, perfect. It was just a discussion. There was no vote on the table or on the agenda this evening, but it was just a discussion because Wilbraham didn't meet again. Wilbraham didn't come, so it was important to have a discussion together as a committee. Did we want to go back to the school choice conversation, or would you like to continue to move forward? Continue with the way?
We should return to the school choice conversation.
Okay. What does someone have to say?
Again, I'll restate that I don't think we should be touching school choice right now for anything under the high school until we really have a plan in place on what this district is going to be doing and implementing over the next 10 years. I think adding 19 students can really hamstring us. Adding 10 students could hamstring us. That's half a class. I think it's something we've really got to be, we have to do it in a more mindful way. And until we know where we're going, we can't use the funds from school choice to fund this position. That being said, I don't know if there are other places where we could fund that position from.
I offered the motion as, you know, as an opportunity for us to discuss, you know, middle ground, and at least, you know, get on the page as far as, you know, equity is concerned. I agree with Sean. I mean, I voted against the school choice positions last time, but I put the motion forward at least to have that discussion to see if there was appetite for it. But I do agree. I mean, until we figure out where we're going, and then as a district, you know, this is every student number counts. And, you know, I know we'll probably get a shellacking from finance saying, you know, you have the opportunity to, you know, to bring in, you know, another X number of students, which will cover that deficit. But at the same time, understanding that that's not really a gain for our district, right? I mean, when we offer those school choice seats, I mean, there's a cost to educating every single one of those students, and it's way more than $5,000.
So, and Bill, you said it yourself. They were saying that they're upset that we make a change that has further effects down the line, and that is what school choice does. School choice, yes, we will get $5,000 per student, and that can help fund for this year. But then those costs are associated all the way down, you know, through the rest of they become our students, and they are our students.
Anyone else?
Is there anything that we can do to add another position so that we don't have to have 26 in a class? Or is there a way that maybe we could see if some of those Hamden students would like to go to Wilbraham and to balance it out instead of 26, or vice versa, right? You know, somewhere to do something so that we can balance it out. I mean, it's sad that the Town Lines is keeping us to utilize this where we can really help each other by saying, instead of you having 26 in a class, we can take some, or we can bring some of our students over there and give you a third class because we can move this and whatever. I mean, it would just be, I mean, 26, it's happened. My son has been in a class where it was 28. But I wasn't in favor of that, and I'm not in favor of it now. But this is just a really rough year for us.
Just to go to answer the question, I'll respond to a couple of things. I would be extremely leery of putting out any kind of communication that could be perceived as encouraging students to switch from one school to another, because one of the things I learned through all of my community meetings regarding reorganization is that happened at some point from some superintendent, and the memory of that is still fresh, like it happened yesterday, and it was perceived as an attempt to undermine things. So I would not do that, because I think that might have implications of just setting us back from the work that we still have ahead of us in terms of reorganization. To the question of what we could do differently, I think it still comes down to what I had said earlier of, are there other positions we could change? You know, could we take a teacher from another place and put them in that grade? Could we eliminate some other positions in order to create money for a teaching position? I think those are really the only options, because as you have seen in the list of all the cuts we've already made, and that list of efficiencies that we already went through, we have gotten down to an extremely bare bones budget. And so really, there are no extra positions. You know, as I said earlier, when Principal Moldberg said, oh, I think we have an additional 12 preschoolers who are we found out about, we're going to need another class. I said, there's no money in the budget for it, so we're going to have to take another position and make it a preschool teacher. So if you want another classroom, which I do too, and not have the choice funding for it, all I can think to do is rejigger our positions around. So that's the charge that I'm kind of getting from this conversation, and that would be my conversations with all the principals to see if there's something else that could be moved from some other place or restructured in some other way in order to create that classroom.
If the committee decided to approve the school choice seats in just Green Meadows and not the ones in Sewell Road School, would would that be enough revenue to fund the teacher? Would that make, I'm not saying I'm in favor of it, but I think it's an important question to ask. Would it be enough to fund that teaching position? And, because, I mean, what we want is an extra teacher, and school choices and so means, which is should.
With anything of this sort, you're rolling the dice, right? So we can offer 8 choice seats. We may only fill 1 of those, right? So what I'm putting on the table is if the school committee is willing to put those seats out there, I think we're willing to roll the dice that will get some seats in. We might have to absorb a little, and we might have to figure some things out, but it's a safer bet than doing nothing, right? If the school committee were to tell us do nothing, we'll try to jigger things, we'll do what we can, but, I mean, we'll still try to move things around if we can, even if we have the seats, because it might make sense. But, you know, what I'm trying to do is improve our odds if we're gonna roll the dice on that, right? So, you know, you want a 7, right? That's your most common roll. If you know, we're hoping to roll 7s here. Does that make sense? I'm, you know, or betting black or red on roulette, right? Instead of choosing a single number.
But even if you, the house always wins.
Well, exactly. I'm not trying to say there's
we're not the house.
There's no winning scenario. But what I'm trying to do is say we're trying to mitigate the risk of doing this, right? There's no great return. We're not going to make any great return off this, but there's a means of mitigating the risk, and I'm talking about how do we mitigate the risk of making that financial commitment.
So let me ask my question just one more time, a little bit more directly. If the committee approves the Green Meadows school choice seats and does not approve the Sewell Road, are you going to rejigger the positions for the extra teacher, or are you going to hire the extra teacher and go with the additional risk? What are you guys going to?
Not entirely my decision to make, and wasn't necessarily the conversation I was planning to have, and I defer.
So I don't know, I guess that means it's my decision. What my answer would be is it depends on what happens with the response to the choice.
Okay.
If we get the position, you know, if we get kids coming in and we can basically fund the position from choice, then we won't make any other changes. If we get the approval for the positions with the understanding that the school committee wants there to be a 3rd class, and we don't get the choice applications, then I will rejigger to try to make the 3rd class.
I think the overall feeling of the committee is that we want that 3rd classroom. I think where the sticking point is you know, rolling the dice on that. You know, there's going to be an absorption of cost somewhere, right? Because I mean, unless you approve all of those positions, you know, you've got 17 positions, 17 school choice seats, at an average of 5, right? So now you're looking at 85,000, right? So you get 85,000. So and it's pretty close to where you're going to be funding a teacher, right? It may not cover everything, including healthcare costs, et cetera. It gets you pretty close. When we start talking about whittling that number down, advertising, you know, less seats, obviously you're going to have less of an impact. The question is we've got 4 seats at 5, which is 20, which we took last year. The other thing we don't know is who's going to fill that position, right? So as you said before, I mean, you could get a bachelor's 4, or you could get, you know, a double master's, which there's a huge difference in the pay scale. So that's kind of a big unknown on that. I would be much more in favor of saying, let's table the school choice thing. Let's take a look at how we can reconfigure the teacher. I'm going to rejigger stuff within the district to be able to create that classroom. But one clarification that I did want to make, John, I think it was more of just semantic errors. When you had talked about the superintendent in the past had advertised the transfer process, and I would clarify that because I was here, and that was how some people perceived it. However, there was a vast number of parents who had made phone calls to the district and had asked for clarification. So in 2017, when there was a vote to unify the middle schools, and it was turned down, it was accepted in Wilbraham, but it was turned down in Hamden, I can tell you that as soon as that vote was made in Hamden, my phone blew up with at least 20 phone calls from different parents from Hamden asking that their child be transferred and how they do it. So the robocall that went out was basically done at the behest of the parents to ask how to clarify the process, but it wasn't done as and that was actually one of the charges that was made in the lawsuit, was that it was a solicitation, and it was never a solicitation. It was merely an informative robocall made to all residents to inform them of what the process is.
Actually, all residents of both towns.
Yes. So, just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Let's continue. Policy subcommittee, I'm sorry, Lisa, LP-back collaborative representative?
I have nothing to report. We will be meeting, we're having a dinner with the mentors of all the students at CTEC, so that will be very interesting.
My apologies, we're gonna go back and just to provide clarification and direction on what we want to do with school choice. Would we like to offer, is there a motion to?
My motion is still on the table,
Okay.
so I think we have to dispense with that motion one way or the other.
Can you refresh our memory as to what you need?
The motion was to accept, to open up 8 school choice slots in Green Meadows, but to not open up the 9 slots at Sewell Road. And you had seconded that, I think, Mike, right? Or at least
I did.
you did it, right?
To move it along.
Okay. Call question?
Yep. So why don't we do,
School choice, like, this can be revisited at any time, correct, before the next school year happens? Like, I know it's
We're
not
already too
the way-
late.
No, but school districts can put out for school choice at any time,
Oh, right, yes, you can always add students, but once you say yes, you can't change your mind and say no.
So I guess, okay.
okay.
Call question? We don't have to do roll call, because
Yep.
it was here, so.
All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Probably everybody who wasn't.
Okay, all right. So we will continue, thank you. We will continue with, so we'll move on with the policy subcommittee.
Okay, so I'm going to start with, so a policy subcommittee, one of the policies we discussed, we wanted to bring up to the full committee for an opinion before we just started with voting it for read-throughs. I'm going to read it for you guys. This is policy GCBB, employment of principals. The policy reads, principals shall be employed by the Hamden-Wilbraham Regional School District under individual contracts of employment. Said contract shall be submitted to the school committee for their approval of all terms concerning compensation benefits prior to the presentation of the contract of employment to the principal. That sentence is the change and would be a major change for us because currently that power is in the hands of the superintendent. The rest of the policy is unchanged. If you guys want me to read it, I will. No, thanks. Okay. So we had a discussion that ensued amongst the three of us. Points that were brought up in favor of the change was that this is under the purview of the budget, and it's good for the committee to have control over these kind of things. Con arguments that were brought up by the subcommittee, we felt that it might be stripping the superintendent of some of their power. There was also concern raised, this concern was raised by myself, that you know, to wait for a school committee meeting to then review, potentially approve, could have a negative impact on recruitment in that, you know, a principal interviewing with us might be interviewing other places, and we wait 2 weeks for a school committee meeting, and they may have accepted a job somewhere else. So we might lose the best candidate as a result of the delay. In all, I think we didn't formally vote, but in fairness, I think Cheryl and myself were against the change, and Bill was in favor of the change based on the discussion, but we chose not to vote. We wanted to bring it up to the school committee, the whole committee for discussion, and with committee voting, the whole committee voting as to whether or not we're going to adapt this change or not. Once again, our current policy is the superintendent has the power for the approval of the contract. If we choose to approve the change, then a principal's contract is going to come before the school committee every time. And I think John tried to parallel what that might be like with our recent hiring of Josh.
So the one thing I brought up in the discussion was, I don't think I'm agnostic to it, but we do talk about budgets, and we talk about how we are able to influence budgets. I believe that it is the superintendent's job to hire principals. I don't think the school committee should necessarily be involved in that at all. I don't think it's necessarily stripping the power of the superintendent if the school committee is at least made aware of the contract and looking at the dollar value of what that contract is, and having those contracts reviewed only because you may find out that over the course...
But Bill, just to clarify, the policy clearly states that it has to be submitted and approved by the school committee. Not the school committee informed, has to be approved by a vote of the school committee.
Yeah.
That would be the change.
But what I'm saying is that the contract will come before the school committee, having had the superintendent already have made the selection. So the school committee doesn't influence who the candidate being hired is. It just gives you the opportunity to review the contract and approve it.
May I ask how this would also affect the assistant principals, since they also have a contract? Is this strictly for principals or assistant principals as well?
The policy mentions only principals. This particular, and I didn't recall seeing one that said assistant principal. So they would fall under, the policies for all under.
And technically, the school committee could turn it down.
Technically, the school committee could reject it, yes. But it brings to the point, the question that I would have is that if you had because we don't see any of those contracts, right? So we don't know, there's public record, you can request them. But as contracts are made and come through, we don't actually see those. So, it just gives you other eyes on the budget to be able to look at another area. And I don't believe that the school committee, I don't necessarily believe the school committee should be in the position of rejecting candidates the superintendent brings forward. I think it's more of an issue of approving the contract, knowing what the contract holds.
John, what are your views?
Well, as Dr. Terabasi said, I tried to sort of model what this might look like in the way we handled the last hiring we did, which was a position that's formally appointed by the school committee. I do think that the issue of timeliness is critical because there is a paucity of candidates and a number of districts that are looking. If the interpretation of this policy was something like what we did for that would meet the requirement of this policy, that would be okay. If, maybe there should be some language around that to try to clarify what that means. That, it could be done in advance, it could be done with ranges, it could be done in a way that allows the contract to be executed in a timely way, so that we don't get hung up in a 2-week cycle of candidate hanging out there.
Hearing you say that brings pause to me adding that in, only because if we get into that, you know, talking about that salary range, and then you get a candidate that you want, and there is a range that we haven't discussed, and maybe it's exceeding that range, and then timeliness does become an issue, yeah, that definitely would impact it, and I don't think that's necessarily what we want. So, and like I said, I wanted to bring it up and just kind of feel out what everybody else thought. I was just sort of playing devil's advocate on it, but I'm truly in favor of limiting school committees' influence in decision-making, and it would have the potential of doing exactly what it is that we don't want to have happen, and that is for school committees to have undue influence over the educational process. So I'm inclined to leave it out.
So perhaps I'd be looking for a motion to only amend the policy with the rewording of his, her, to their, and not the change. Okay,
So moved.
Second.
Say the policy again, please.
Policy GCBB, employment of principals. You were against the change. And that's the current motion on the table is against the change, but with the reword. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Am I allowed to do a reading on this one?
That was the reading. You can actually change them during the readings.
Yep. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. So that's the first reading for that one. Okay. So back to. Okay. So memorandum on third reading of the following section D policies and possible vote. DJ purchasing. DJE bidding requirements. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the third reading of those policies as you just read.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. Memorandum on second reading of the following section E policies. EB, safety program. EBB, first aid. EBC, emergency plans. EBCD, emergency closing. EC, buildings and ground management. EEAE, school bus safety program. EEAEB, drug and alcohol testing for school bus and commercial vehicle drivers. EEAEC also comes by the name of JICC, so this is a concomitant student policy too. Student conduct on school bus. EEAJ, motor vehicle idling on school grounds. EFC, free and reduced price food services. EHAA, district security relating to technology. EHB, data and records retention. Memorandum on first reading of the following section E and G policies. EC1, regional school district buildings and ground management. GBA, equal employment opportunity. GBEA, staff ethics, conflict of interest. GBEB, staff conduct. GBEBC, gifts and solicitations by staff. GBEBD, online fundraising and solicitations, crowdfunding. GBEC, drug-free workplace policy. GBGB, staff, personal security and safety. GBGE, domestic violence leave policy. GBCF, family and medical leave. GBI, staff participation in political activities. GBJ, personal records. GCA, professional staff positions. GCBA, professional staff salary schedules. GCBB, employment of principals. GCBC, professional staff supplementary pay plans. GCE, professional staff recruiting, posting of vacancies. GCF, professional staff hiring. GCG, substitute professional staff employment. GCIA, philosophy of staff development. GCJ, professional teacher status. GCK, professional staff assignments and transfers. GDB, support staff contracts and compensation plans. Memorandum on first reading of the following section H policies. HA, negotiations goals. HB, negotiations legal status. HF, school committee negotiating agents. Hold on. Memorandum on first reading of the following section I policies. I, J, and D, access to digital resources. And our next meeting, Erin, when is our next meeting?
It's funny you should ask that. It is April 23rd, 5 o'clock in the district office, right before our planning committee that we're having the same day at 6. So 5 o'clock in the district office on Tuesday, April 23rd.
There we go.
Oh, I stand corrected, I said the planning committee was at 5:30 on the 26th, or 6 o'clock.
They usually are, Michelle, they have a procedure.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. Okay, so.
What did we do? We bumped you?
Yes.
No, sorry.
Okay, so technology subcommittee.
Because, you know, it's good, because it puts us against a hard stop, you know?
Perfect.
Because the last subcommittee, we didn't actually go through and read all those, did we? Did you go through and read all of those?
Yeah.
God. But it was,
Do you guys ever hear the Three
Required
Stooges?
to.
The Three Stooges do B-A-Bay, B-E-B, that's all I heard when he was saying that.
Yeah,
It was in the back of my head.
I don't think we've ever, I think in the past, we've basically, because it's a public document, the agenda is a public document, so you could conceivably just reference the document and say we have the following are on the listed on.
No, I'm glad you did that, it just shows the work that the team's doing.
Yeah, well, that was a marathon session for sure.
Do you have anything for technology?
I know.
Okay. And then we already went over the superintendent evaluation committee. So consent agenda.
Make a motion to
may-
accept the consent agenda.
Yes, may I just ask that we hold the minutes from 3/28/24, just on the agenda, it was, there was an error, so it was not listed as the state, so if we could hold those minutes until the next meeting, I'd appreciate it.
With the removal of school committee minutes from March 2024.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, future agenda items?
Oh yeah, can I just mention, so I was reading an article that the Canada School Board has put forth a lawsuit against social media companies and the impact that it's having on the students. And I thought that was a really wonderful idea, and that's something that maybe we want to look into as well, that you know, we should have safeguards for our students, and we should have ways of protecting them. That Canada is doing this first. I didn't know if this is something that we want to lead the charge on and see if we can get other school districts in Massachusetts to get on board or something like that. That's why we put it there for a future agenda, but I just thought that was really interesting.
I'd have to learn more about it. It is interesting though, because if you look at how social media is employed in this country, and you look at, I'll use TikTok as an example. I've had several people tell me that if you go to China and you can access TikTok in China, it's like very educationally geared. Like it's completely different than what you see in the United States. It's not a bunch of people doing stupid tricks. It's like, you know, useful educational information. So, I mean, it just goes to show that all the dollars, you know.
Is this where can I propose a future agenda item?
Yeah.
So I wanted to propose that we discuss, I know that the current strategy in regards to the modification of the regional agreement is to do it in parallel with a proposed reorganization plan. I'd like us to discuss at a future meeting whether we want to change that strategy. In other words, consider moving forward with some version of a modification of the regional agreement. Not saying that there won't be a reorganization of the school district, but acknowledging that that might take longer to come up with in the right way, and we might want to solidify the position of, have our regional agreement actually better reflect what we're doing right now and solidify that position. So, in the future.
Anyone else? Okay. Our next meeting is Thursday, April 25th at 6:30 p.m. at Gordon Burgess. But we do have the need for executive session pursuant to Master General Laws, C, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law, specifically Master General Law C 214, Section 1B, Massachusetts Student Records Law, Master General Law C 71, Section 34D, Massachusetts Student Records Regulations 603 CMR 23 Sequentia, and Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, 20 U.S.C. Section 1232G and 34 CFR Part 99 regarding student transfer request.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Okay, we will be adjourning from executive session. Bill?
Yes.
Cheryl? Aye. Sean?
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Mike?
Yep.
Myself, aye. We are now adjourning to executive session.
Can we have a 5-minute biological?
3.